Hello, my name is Ezra Bimantara. I'm from 10 Science 6, number 12. And today I want to tell you about a folk story from Germany that has the name Hansel and Gretel. So let's begin. So once upon a time, a woodcutter lived with his second wife and their children, Hansel and Gretel. The woodcutter family was so poor that one night the woodcutter's wife decided that they have to abandon the children to the woods or die of starvation. The two children overheard their stepmother's plan. Gretel wept, but Hansel said, "Don't cry, Gretel." As soon as their parents fell asleep, Hansel slept outside and he began to collect white pebbles at night. And so, the next morning, the stepmother woke the children. "Wake up, you lazy things. You will go chop wood with your father." The woodcutter was sad, but he had agreed with his wife's plan, and so they set off to go into the forest. When they had gone a little way, Hansel stopped and looked back at the house.
"What are you looking at?"
asked the father.
"I'm looking at my cat sitting on the roof."
But in truth, he had stopped to drop pebbles from his pocket upon the path. When they had gone some way, the father built a big fire, and when the fire was blazing, he said to the children,
"No, children, you will rest here and I will go to chop wood into the forest. As soon as I finish, I will go back to you."
The children waited for hours and they fall asleep. And as soon as they woke up, it was night. Gretel started to cry, but Hansel comforted her.
"Don't worry, Gretel. Wait until the moon rises."
When the moon rose, Hansel took his sister's hand and they followed the path of pebbles that shone like silver in the moonlight. And so they got back into their father's house. When their stepmother saw them, she pretended to be glad and cried,
"Oh, children, I thought you will never come home."
But soon afterward, they heard their stepmother's plans to leave them in the woods again. Hansel planned to collect pebbles, but this time the door was locked, so he can't go outside. In the morning, the children and their father went into the woods again. And since Hansel has no pebbles, this time he decided to leave a trail of breadcrumbs into his path. After they had gone a little way, their father made a fire and told the children to go to sleep. The children fell asleep and they woke up in the middle of the night again. And again, Hansel comforted his sister to wait until the moon rose. When the moon rose, they both began to search for the breadcrumbs, but since the birds have eaten all of them, they couldn't find it. Gretel started to cry, but Hansel said,
"Don't worry, Gretel. We will find our way."
And so they began to find their way back to their home. The next morning, the children were deep in the woods, and when they walked, they saw a bird singing sweetly, so they have to listen to it. And when the bird flew off, they followed the bird, and they came in front of a cottage. And they were amazed because the cottage was made of gingerbread and candies.
"A feast!"
Hansel said, and reached to break off a stick of a candy, while Gretel looked at the sugary window panes. Suddenly, a voice came from inside.
"Tap, tap. Who raps on my door?" "The wind,"
The children answered. But the woman who lives inside was no fool, and so she hummed outside. And when Hansel and Gretel saw her, they were afraid that they let their candies fall.
"Children, come in. I will make you a fine meal."
This she did, and afterwards she broke the children into a little room with beds covered with white strips. Hansel and Gretel were exhausted that they fall into a peaceful sleep. The witch who acted kindly was in real a very, very bad witch who captured children and ate them.
"Ha ha ha. They will make a fine feast, they will."
The next morning, the witch woke up Hansel and captured him into a cage. Next, she woke up Gretel and forced her to make a huge meal for Hansel.
"I will fatten him up, and when he is good and fat, I will cook him."
Gretel cried, but the witch forced her to do what she did. And so, every day, the witch forced Hansel to show up his finger so she can see how fat he is growing. But Hansel was wise. So instead of showing his finger, he showed a bone. The witch, who can barely see, were surprised why Hansel never grew fat. And after 4 weeks, and Hansel's finger was as thin as a bone, the witch lost her control.
Gretel, boil the kettle. Fat or thin, I will cook Hansel this morning, the witch said. Gretel cried, but she filled the kettle, made a fire, and heated up the oven. Now, look into the oven, dearie, and see if it's hot enough to bake our bread. Of course, the witch intended to shut the door as soon as Gretel climbed in. But Gretel was no fool, and so she said, "How should I get in?" "Fool," the witch said, and she showed her how to get into the oven. And as soon as the witch climbed with her head into the oven, immediately Gretel pushed her and locked the door.
Gretel freed Hansel, and together they gathered every jewel and precious stone they could find in the house. And then they ran out until they came into a big lake. Hansel said,
"I see no bridge or boat, Gretel. There's no way to cross."
But Gretel said, "Don't worry, brother," and she called a dove. The dove carried the children one by one, and then they walked until they find their father's house. Their fathers, who see them, was very happy because since the children had left, he had no happy moments anymore. Their stepmothers died because of hunger and unhappiness. Now Gretel shook her apron, and Hansel emptied his pockets, and all the precious stones and diamonds and jewelry they fell. Family sorrows had come to an end, and they lived together happily ever after.
Taking